Gawain has two very interesting responses to the conclusion of the double story. This is the first. He curses himself and seeks penance. Take a look at line 2385. He says this to the Green Knight. Such terrible mistakes, and I shall bear the blame. But tell me what it takes to clear my clouded name. The Green Lord laughed, and leniently replied, The harm which you caused me is wholly healed. By confessing your failings, you are free from fault, and have openly paid penance at the point of my axe. I declare you purged, as polished and pure as the day you were born, without blemish or blame. That's quite a speech, isn't it? Bertilac sounds, the Green Knight sounds, like a priest. Very precisely. He uses exactly the language that a priest would in absolving a sinner in the Sacrament of Penance. First, it's no accident, I think, that he's called the Lord here. And then he says, by confessing your failings, you are free from fault. That is exactly what happens in the Catholic Sacrament of Penance. He then goes on to say that Gawain has actually done penance at the point of his axe. And he absolves, as the priest does in the sacrament, he absolves Gawain of his sins. He says, I declare you purged, as polished and pure as the day you were born, without blemish or blame. Well, again, that's exactly what happens in the Catholic Sacrament of Penance. Your sin, your original sin, is washed away again in the Sacrament of Penance, as it was the first time in your life when you were baptized. So when the Green Knight says to Gawain that he is purged, that he is as pure as the day he was born, without blemish or blame, that is theologically very, very precise. That is exactly what happens in the Sacrament of Penance. So this cool supernatural fairy story, this ghost story, it's going to turn out to be a story about witches and fairies too, in the work of this poet has turned into a profoundly Christian story. I think that what's going on is that the Green Knight represents Christ here. That's why he lives in a chapel. That's why this second part of the encounter takes place in a chapel, the Green Chapel. Gawain went expecting and deserving death, according to the law of an eye for an eye. But he found someone who I think is clearly intended to represent Christ, who does not exact the penalty that he, Gawain, deserved, who does not punish Gawain as his sins deserve, but rather calls him to be faithful to him, to Christ, and furthermore forgives Gawain through the sacraments of the Church, the body of Christ, even when you fail in this loyalty and faithfulness to him. Indeed, he richly gives to you. The Green Knight turns the girdle from stolen property and the sign of Gawain's lack of virtue, lack of truth, into a gift. He gives this thing that is the cause of Gawain's sin, the cause of Gawain's fault, to him, and turns it into a free gift. Let's be clear. Gawain has met God. Much as it looks like a fairy story, an adventure story, a supernatural story, the story Gawain has gone through is a gospel story. Gawain has discovered the gospel. Gawain has discovered the forgiveness of his sins. Gawain has discovered grace.